to drive a Chinese brand when you are from the city of BMW and having Audi nearby? That's really,
Yeah.
really strange. And
So, what is the challenge, or what are things that frustrate you in the electric vehicle ownership, which are not making it to the market? So,
yeah, I think it's on the one hand, as a NIO customer, it's the update policy with the NIO. Yeah,
yeah.
especially from EV in general, is really the winter performance.
One thing that the EV buyers in India would take for granted that neo owners don't have.
That's not possible in
True.
China. That Germany can't build software, and especially this is so convenient to have these batteries switched within 2 or 3 minutes right now. It's speeding
Right.
up with every generation that comes out.
Well, today we are with Andreas, who who is a real EV owner of a Chinese EV, and he sits 6,000 kilometers away in Germany, but he is a very good friend, and we thank him for agreeing to do this. Thank you, Andreas. He drives a thing called NIO EV, which does so many things which Indian buyers have not even imagined it. And he lives in Munich, as I said, where basically the BMW headquarters is, and where the engine, the gearbox, the entire idea of German engineering in the ICE engines have been developed and perfected, sold around the world for hundreds of years. And that city, that legacy, the guy I'm talking today drives a Chinese electric car by choice. So we'd like to understand from him how journey has been and what made him choose this. You live in Munich, the home to BMW, right? And BMW Museum, that's basically the spiritual capital of German combustion engineering, right? So tell me which car you used to drive in past, and how then you came up to driving this Chinese EV that you are driving right now.
Okay, just let me first say thank you for having me here on the show. So I already took some look at your content that you're creating with Instagram and so on, and it's really, really looks nice, and I'm really proud to be on your show here today.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
speaking of German car history, my personal history is, I drove a lot of German cars before. It was a BMW hatchback. It was the
Mhm,
Audi Q7 and so on and so on. Especially with the family, I wanted to have a really big car.
mhm.
But then we had the Dieselgate of Volkswagen, and I
Oh, okay.
decided to have an electric car.
Okay.
The NIO one, the Chinese one, was not the first one. The first one was the Tesla Model Y, and
Okay.
I was at this point already convinced about EV cars or on EV cars. And after some months, I thought, okay, now I will. That was only kind of a test car, and
Mhm.
after some months, I wanted to buy another one, and this was during COVID, with the supply chains all broken and skyrocketing prices for EV cars. And then I saw a video
Mhm.
from NIO on a YouTube channel where the brand was introduced in Germany, and they said we will be able to deliver within 2 weeks. And I said, no way,
Okay.
they won't do. Let's give it a try. And so it was not 2 weeks, it was 4 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And they had a special promotion where you don't
Mhm.
have had to buy the car, but you can rent it for a year. And I
Okay.
said, okay, that's limited risk, and let's give it a try. And that
Okay.
was how I came to drive a NIO first. And at that point of time, already mentioned it. So I was really here within my bubble and within my friends, the weirdo that is
Mhm.
driving not only an electric car but
Mhm.
also a Chinese one. How could you do? And that is really, really strange. This changed a little bit over the time.
Mhm.
Especially with the EV cars, because we have a quite high adoption of EV cars or hybrid
Okay.
cars, especially in Munich right now.
Okay.
But to drive a Chinese brand when you are from the city of BMW and having Audi nearby, that's really,
Yeah.
really strange, and people are still looking.
So the NIO cars are head turners in Germany, is it? Like when you pass by the street, like people look at you that you're driving a new thing or something like that. Like isn't that
Yeah,
is it unusual?
especially in the first years, it was really, really that they were looking because they did not know the brand. That's still
Mm-hmm.
the case. So it's not very famous, and unfortunately, it's not very famous in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But especially the smaller one, the ET5, it looks a little bit like a Porsche, and it's really,
Okay.
really, whenever you stop at supermarket or when you have to recharge the car, then often somebody comes to you and asking, is it a smart car? Is it an EV car? Which
Okay.
brand is it from? So yeah,
Right.
that's still happening.
Anyway, so you talked about the Dieselgate. I mean, that's interesting. I think that was a time when so many things were impacted. My next question would be that, I have a friend in Belgium who drives a Mercedes EV, and they also have, good chunk of EVs, good set of
Mm.
vehicles in the electric area. Then Audi has also launched its own e-tron, right? So you drove first the Tesla, and then you switched over to Chinese. So did you experience them actually while buying the German cars, or did you just skipped over and went to the the pure basic EV brands?
No, so yeah, I still doing a lot of test driving also of German cars because I'm really interested in, and whenever a friend buys and I'm promoting EV cars a lot here.
Okay.
And so whenever a friend buys a new brand, like in the company, we have Skodas, we have Smart. Okay, that's also Chinese, kind of
Mhm.
Chinese.
Okay.
And then I do a test drive in that one. So it's not that I'm, and they also have good cars, especially Audi came up with some, especially the new e-tron with the 800-volt system. That's quite a nice car. But
Okay.
to be honest, when you compare value to price, then I think the Chinese are still ahead at this
Mhm.
point of time.
And so as you are saying that Chinese are still ahead, so in what sense do you feel like,
Mhm.
are they developing a specific like charging infrastructure inside Germany? Are they ahead in battery technology? What is the driving factor there?
Yeah, so it depends. So in Germany, we have a big discussion. Is the chassis system really that good like it is for German cars, and so on and so on? And it really depends on what kind of customer you're thinking of. But I think especially this is changing. When you're looking for a car that is equipped, at least that's true for me, that it's equipped with the newest features, newest infotainment systems, and with the also with the newest yeah, digital applications that you can download and play with or use within the car.
Hmm.
Chinese cars, even so, they only offer a limited of these services what they offer within China. But
Hmm.
even there, I think they're still ahead of the European
Okay.
supplier or manufacturers. But on the other side, so there are still some enthusiasts that say, okay, driving this car or this German car or this European car is better because it's sportier and it's more fitted to our road conditions and so on and so on. But to
Hmm.
be honest, that's not of interest for me. I'm interested in a really comfortable car with the newest applications available and that I can use
Okay.
and have a comfortable ride from city to city. Because I'm most of the time using this for long distance rides, not drives within the city.
Right. So we'll come to that actually. That's interesting because you have done so many things, unusual
Mhm.
with so-called EVs. So when I say, with inverted commas, why I say that is because in India, the market is still growing, and it's
Mhm.
like we have demand, but, that is because of the current shock of where
Exactly.
basically we have the fuel prices rising, and because of that, the urban buyers are really going towards the car electric vehicles. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, before that, one very interesting thing that you said is that with even the limited support that they are providing compared to what they offer in China, the German EVs are still behind in engineering. So with that, we have also a good, context of discussing that, let's say in India, when an EV is launched, right, the battery technology and the electronics are still Chinese. You don't have like complete make in India electric vehicle yet. Yeah. So is it the same case with Germany as well when they launch BMW or a Mercedes with, electric technology?
Yeah, it depends. So Volkswagen, they have their own battery factory, and what they put up at Salzgitter, and I think they now starting producing. Then we had another company, the Northvolt disaster called here,
Okay.
because there was a lot of tax money spent to it, and then they
Mm-hmm.
went bankrupt. And so a manufacturer like BMW, they develop their own batteries, but then they
Mm-hmm.
will be produced by Chinese manufacturers. So there
Mm-hmm.
are all kinds of different paths that the manufacturers choose to handle this one. I think BMW is now ahead because they have really good battery cells and chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and we will see how this will turn out with the so-called Einheitszelle, with
Mm-hmm.
the standard cell from Volkswagen that will go live right now.
So I think generally I saw that there are two battery chemistries with this, liquid batteries, like not the solid state ones. One is LFP and one is NMC. And so which one typically is used in Germany?
So most of the time it's NFC because it's really,
Mhm.
especially for the premium brands, because they said BMW and Mercedes, especially and Porsche, said so for performance reasons we have to have this, and it's
Okay.
also a better. It's also a better quality within the winter times. And that's true. So we saw some problems with LFP for the first Chinese cars that came over, especially in the winter. I think they
Mm-hmm.
faced the same problems over in China, but they're catching up and they are developing so quick that, and especially for having cheaper cars within Germany, not
Right.
only the premium ones, but also the middle class and the entry class, they are provided with a LFP, but LFP
Mm-hmm.
is developing, and I think with the new battery type that now BYD and CATL launched
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year, most of these problems will be gone, I hope.
So, thanks for that. Now, really, let's talk about the crazy stuff that you have done with your electric vehicle, which is, I would say, most people think would be out of bounds for an EV. Let's say Sweden trip that you did. How many kilometers was that?
So maybe I have to first give some background for the Sweden
Hmm.
trip. So the Sweden
Sure.
trip was a road trip we did last month, end of last month, no, beginning of
Okay.
this month, yeah. So I'm a little bit engaged in this. There is a user community within the NIO brand, so I can also
Okay.
dive into detail later on this one.
Of course. Of
But
course. Yeah.
with some friends, we decided to go. And what is special about NIO is that they have a battery swap system. I think that's something
Yes.
that you have, especially for the two-wheelers, but not for the four-wheelers
Correct.
in India.
Yes.
So you
Yes. Good
can
research.
go
Yeah.
to a
Thanks.
station, park there, click on a button, then the car autonomously parks in. A robot
Hmm.
comes and takes the old battery or the battery out and
Hmm.
provide you with a fully charged new one. And then you can go
Okay.
within 3 or 4 minutes and you're ready to go and can
Hmm.
continue your ride drive.
Interesting.
And so and there are about 60 power swap stations all across Europe. And
Hmm.
we set a goal that we want to change at least at every single one of that one over Europe and do some road trips. So we started with this in Germany last
Uh-huh.
summer, then we did it in wintertime in the
Hmm.
Netherlands and Belgium, and what is still open was Sweden and Norway. And so
Okay.
this time we choose to go to Sweden, and it was about I think it was about 3,000 kilometers within 2 days
Okay.
that we had. We drove overnight also, and swapped the batteries, visiting some friends, community friends. We met a lot of friends at the power swap stations within Sweden,
Okay.
and then went back to Germany within 2.5 days. Yeah.
So that was 3,000 kilometers to and fro, or just one way?
Round trip. Yeah.
Round trip. Okay. Which model of NIO that you own right
Mhm.
now, and what is the range of a battery in that?
So I'm driving, and that was not my car. That was a car that was provided by NIO. But it's the same car. It's a ET7. That's a large sedan,
Mhm.
and it's equipped with a 100 kilowatt hour battery. I
Oh,
think
okay.
usable are 95 kilowatt hours of that one. So normally you have this brutto value like 100 kilowatt hours, and um, a certain amount is kept not to be used at all. So I think it's 95 kilowatt hour.
Okay. Okay. And so, when you drive generally in let's say Germany, or when you take these trips,
Mhm.
apart from these special trips where you are religiously swapping the batteries, like, do you prefer charging at all, or you now have completely switched to swapping batteries all the time?
No, so that's not possible here. It's in Germany we have, I think, about 20 power swap stations, and so they are located along the highways. So it's a completely difficult picture within China, where it's mainly within the cities, but now also being attached to the main routes within between the cities. But in Germany, that's not the case. So especially when traveling here or starting here, most of the early adopters of EV cars here in Germany, they have solar power on the roof. So
Mm-hmm.
they are paying, near nothing
Yeah,
for the power
charging.
they put into the car. So that's
Okay.
really, 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 really cheap and really, really good
True.
because you can go for free.
Yeah.
And only when you are on the highway, you have to see then how to uh, 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 recharge the car. And there you can either go to the high power charging stations or to the swap station, but that's only true for NIO cars within Europe
Right.
here. So we have no
Okay.
other battery swap system like there are in China, different ones.
Okay. Okay. In like in your car,
Mhm.
typical, when with the 95 kilowatt hour that you have used, right?
Mhm.
What's the typical range like if you drive it in city conditions, highway conditions, and performance modes? Generally, typically, what is the range that you drive?
That's really difficult to answer because it really depends on the weather conditions, how many load you have in, if you're going
Yeah.
with 4 people or something like this. So I would say in the summertime, it's and you load it or you charge it really up to 100%, you can go for 400 kilometers. In the
400, you said. Okay.
wintertime, yeah, in the wintertime, and you go about 130 kilometers an hour
Okay.
normal cruising speed on the highway, on German highways.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the autobahns.
And
Okay.
but if you are really, really sporty, and if it's in the winter and it's really, really cold and it's raining and you don't have this grip on the street, it can go down to 270 kilometers before you have to
Okay.
recharge.
That's
So
interesting.
it,
Mostly based on the feedback in my survey, the real world range of, let's say, typical 60 kilowatt hour car here in India would range somewhere in the rounds of 350 to 400 kilometers
Mhm.
if driven properly, if not, like,
Mhm.
if we are not just exploiting the battery by using the sports mode, etc.
But
Yeah.
is it then driving within the city or also on the highways?
So on the highway as well. So 350 to
Okay.
400 is generally guaranteed in a 60 kilowatt hour front wheel drive cars.
Yeah.
So there
So
is a
but
company.
I think that's a funny thing about EVs, that it's the completely different way like ICE cars, where you have more range when you drive in the city, and it's
In the
the other
city,
way
yes.
around when you have the
Correct.
ICE
Yeah,
cars. That's really, really
absolutely.
funny
That's
about
true.
this.
That's true. And so generally when you go like on a longer trip, what's like till what minimum level you drive and then you say, okay, now we need to charge or we need to have a battery swap.
I think that's a development I saw at each rookie that came to electric vehicles. You start really getting nervous when it's turning to 15 or 10%, and then you get, especially, and this is also true when you change the cars because you're not accustomed to how the car will react in which kind of weather situations and so on and
Yes.
so on. But when you get familiar with this one, for me, it's that I see that I will go there for and to have about 4% left or something like this, less than 5%. That's still
Okay.
okay for me. To be honest, that's also dependent on the infrastructure. So when I
Mm-hmm.
started to buy electric cars 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we had far less infrastructure, charging infrastructure that we have right now on the
Mm-hmm.
German highways and so on. And there were still some white spots. There are still some white spots, but not where I'm normally going.
Right.
And then you're getting nervous. So I always said you don't need a special heating because you're driving in the car and just hoping that you will get it, that you will make it. But
Okay.
I think these problems are mainly gone right now, and infrastructure is being built and built and built. How is it in India?
So infrastructure is getting built for sure, but there are some operational issues with it. We have limited area where there are dense charging networks, and let's say if you are planning to go 1,000 kilometers at a stretch, right, and you are, let's say, saying that okay, I will just stay overnight after 500 kilometers, which is my range, and then I'll charge it overnight. You will get the chargers in hotels. You will get chargers on normal petrol bunks, and let's say in our societies as well, there are chargers to charge things. But problem is the interoperability of all. So let's say some hotels would not allow because in general they are low on power or something else, or they generally they don't have a calculation mechanism because they are all those home based chargers. They are not really professional card based chargers which are there. The other issue is that there are so many providers. Let's say there are companies like Static, there are companies like Charge Zone, which are actual charging companies. They collaborate with these car companies and provide their services. But when you have, let's say, one of the company's card and you want to charge with the other because your range was low and you were anxiety moderate and now you want to charge it. Generally, it is, I think, not possible to charge with one card in the other bit. So, that's where people are facing these issues. So, it's about charging density. Of course, it is increasing. And car operators like Kia, they are coming up with the interactive maps where, let's say if you are planning a journey, they will, on the way, they will show how many chargers you can access, etc. So it is improving, I would say, but it's not the best. It's still, it needs a lot of improvement. Let's say I'll give an example. In our society, we have a charger. They stopped working because apparently the charging company was not paying the bill to the society. So now they had this operational issue where, even though the facility is there, we can't really use it. Yeah. Because we have big societies with, let's say, for example, in my society, we have 1,150 flats, apartments, right? So it's a huge crowd. Now here there are other issues like people are not allowing charging in the parking because of fire safety reasons. So that's also a hassle.
Mhm. Okay,
It's like
so
that.
it sounds a little bit like the situation was in Germany before, but
Mhm.
then they came up with some roaming companies that had special services that you had only one card and you can pay with this at all the different charging providers. So maybe this will also develop in India. Hope so.
So what would be your message to a typical Indian buyer? Because the range anxiety is the main reason why people don't buy in India. What would be your suggestion to them?
So that's the same within Germany. So the people are still saying, okay, we have this range anxiety, and it's good to have a look at this one and to not to be so sure, but or too confident, and then you're getting out of power. But normally it's not a problem. It's really not a problem. So if you plan, maybe you have to do some additional planning. So that was at least the case when I started with the EV adventure 5 years ago. There you
Okay.
have to plan, okay, now I'm going, especially when I went to Italy, to another country. So I had to plan where are there really possibilities to recharge during the trip and so on. But this is the 10-minute planning. So, and especially now today with all the AI tools and mapping tools and updated mappings, it's less of effort. So I think it's not worth waiting. So I think driving an EV, because it's so smart and so calm and convenient, and most of them already have a air conditioner built within. I don't know if it's the same in India. You have so many pros that the cons of only planning or to spend a little bit more effort in planning,
Yeah.
especially long trips. That's
Yeah,
clear
that's
how
true.
to decide.
Correct. And yeah, extending that, what I would say is that the way this ICE infrastructure was built, right? The petrol pumps and the way they are maintained, I think it's much more difficult than a general charging network, because you have the electricity distribution network already. Of course, we need to increase the capacity of it, which is also a complex matter. But then operationally, you don't have to really, drive in a tighter with fuel to really fill that, petrol pump, so that it can then further distribute. So this supply chain would be much easier to actually expand compared to what happened, years ago for petrol vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. So what I find really interesting and also a good possibility to step in there is that locally produce power, so that you can set up the solar power or the wind power parks. And now with the batteries becoming so affordable, plug some batteries to that one and you have the perfect charging station, and
Correct.
do some business with this one, adding shops and so
Absolutely.
on and so on. So to be honest, I'm not really familiar about the possibilities in India, but for me, it sounds like a paradise to step in there and to build this
True.
infrastructure, because
No, absolutely. With the good sunlight that we have around the year, right? This, unlike Europe, where it's very difficult to get it for half the year, it's obviously something that can be looked for by the investors to set up a business. It's a good idea. That's true. Okay, so now talking about our neighbors, the great Chinese people. You went to China, I think, more than once. And,
yeah.
once I think it was for a NIO community event, as you,
Mhm.
highlighted in past. Yeah, tell me more on that. Like, how was that experience? What are the, things that the NIO owners get to access that, generally regular car owners are not aware of? And, is it?
So yeah, so I was, I think now it was 3 times or something like this in China, mainly for
Mhm,
NIO.
mhm,
Because as I told you, I'm engaged in this user community of NIO, and that's something special within NIO. So NIO is a kind of premium brand, especially in China, and they
Okay.
offer a lot of community services that are organized by the community. So let's say, for
Mhm,
instance, they have these NIO houses. These NIO houses are not show. There are also showrooms for the
mhm,
cars, and where the cars are sold. But then you have an area within this NIO house where only the users or the buyers can have access, and there are a lot of community events happening. So I
okay.
was last month I was in Shenzhen, and they told me
Mhm,
that they have within the Shenzhen area about 3,000 different user clubs that are
mhm,
organized by the users there, and
okay.
they have at least 30 till 50 events a day that are
Oh.
organized by community members. Let it be some sports, let it be cooking,
Mhm,
let it be that somebody's doing some stuff with the kids, and so on and so on. So that's really, really nice to see how this is evolving, and how the community is creating value for itself, and they take
correct.
care of itself. So that's something really, really special. And what was also nice to see is that we went to Hefei, where the main factories from NIO are. And to see these automized factories where you can also put down the light and all the robots will work in the dark, that was really interesting and nice to see. So I have been to a lot of car factories here in Germany as well, but that was a new level what we
Okay,
saw there.
okay. So basically, they are like sort of zero touch factories, is it? That it's all robotic and very less human intervention in the car making process. Okay, interesting. And I think the hero is the battery swap technology, as you were highlighting. So I think that when you were switching from Tesla to, let's say, NIO, I'm sure that must have been the highlight, that you can actually do this and it's pretty cool. I mean, you can actually go longer than Tesla.
Yeah, that was one. To be honest, they are far more comfortable than Tesla, and Tesla they were the spearheads of EV
Yeah.
industry, and we have to be thankful for that one because everything developed from this success. But
True.
nowadays, I think there are other technologies. I think the ADAS systems are pretty good, but besides this, it's not the cars I like to choose if I have a new car and I'm looking for some comfortable car. Yeah.
So when you were in China, did you get to meet the actual product people and people from the company who are working on something even bigger, and then you got to see that? Did you end up seeing something which is you can see this is again very futuristic?
Yeah, that's also nice. But that's not only happening in China. So I'm part of it's called UAB, User Advisory Board in Germany, and that's a special kind of users, and we get invited by NIO whenever they have something new to test this stuff and to discuss business use cases on that one, and so on and so on. And that was the same within China. So I was invited to talk to people on new technologies that will come up on new models. So we saw some at the factory that were already produced but are not public right now. You have to understand, we signed an NDA and I can't tell
No, I
you
understand. Yeah,
anything
that's
about
fine.
that one.
Yeah, we can expect
But
more
there's
cool
more to
features.
come. There's more to come and we can
Definitely.
look forward to it.
15 years of a car lifetime in India. When you do a battery swap, basically that concept is abolished, right? You're basically changing the battery. So in this, how does brand give a warranty? When you swap the battery and you give it to them, do they also evaluate how you are actually using the battery? Like, do they give a report on that, or do they charge more on that? How do they do?
So first you have to distinguish. You can do both. You can either purchase the battery and it will stay within the car, but then you're not allowed to do the battery swapping. Or you can rent the battery. It's called battery as a service. And then you can rent a battery. It's either in the European models right now, it's a 75 kilowatt hour battery or 100 kilowatt battery. And it's also possible when you have the minor one, the 75 kilowatt hour, to change for some time if you go on a trip to South or East Europe to get a 100 kilowatt hour battery, because then you're on the safe side and to have more power within the car. So that's the first one. And you can only do this when you have these rental model of the battery where you pay a rental fee, monthly fee for the rental. And having this, you can always go and swap the battery, and you're not and will check the battery when it's taken out. They will do some checking on the surface, and if it's scratched or something like this, if there are damages, then they will put it out and will be replaced. But you don't get any feedback on you were driving too fast with it or something like this. So what you really can do is you can use your battery how you want it, and get every time a new, not a completely new, but
Mhm.
a checked battery, and it will
Mhm.
go on. And you will have this how long you drive or how long you pay for the service. You can also
Okay.
choose to, at a later point of time, to buy this battery out. Then you say, I
Mhm.
want to stay with this battery, and then you can
Right.
also buy this battery.
But then
And
the
I
swap is
think
not
this is
allowed.
really convenient because of two reasons. First one, you have this lifelong guarantee on the battery. Second one, it's cheaper. So
Mhm.
I think you have to, when you compare the rent to the purchase, I think it's about 9 years or something like this that you have to pay before you get the same price. And
Mhm.
the other one is, and that's really a pain point, but also the big advantage of the system. So
Right.
let's say at least the cell chemistry is changing, or you made some progress within the engineering. You can get
Mhm.
even a better battery. So especially here in Europe, there are, for these 100 kilowatt batteries, there are two types. It's called Type A and
Mhm.
B. And
Mhm.
the B battery, because of there was progress in engineering, charges, I think, 30% faster than the A battery. So when they new batteries are put into the system, you can
Mhm.
also, you have the chance to get one of them, and
Right.
then it's a huge upgrade for your car
True.
when you can charge
30%
30%
faster. True.
less faster with this battery.
So we it's interesting because we do have this battery as a service,
Okay.
swap as yet. We do have this battery as a service, which is honestly not making much financial sense in India at the moment because of two reasons. One, it's basically given on a calculation per kilometer, right? Basically, they will take some minimum amount of kilometers and then they will charge into some, rupees in Indian
Mhm.
currency for those number of kilometers. And if I add them up, I'm not saving much as such
Okay.
in the longer duration. So yeah, I mean, if this comes, it will be interesting, and let's see how people use this because this will be useful if eventually some Indian car brand or even Chinese with the help of JSW, if they come up with this battery swap, of course people will have more confidence in this.
Mhm.
Okay. So one of the features that I explored of this VF6 was it was not just holding the car at a point. It had a crawl mode. So I could just put it into that and then, it will just climb the area. It will not stop or it will not, go back.
Mhm.
Apart from that, like what other things have you experienced with that EV? Because it's an interesting use case.
Yeah, for especially for going to the mountains, what we already talked about is the region. So
Hmm.
when you go down the hill, you're gaining additional
Yeah.
power, not only by braking, but also because you have the
Yeah.
engine is producing the down force to battery. Especially we have here in the mountains when you drive at Berchtesgaden, there is a mountain where we started on the
Hmm.
mountains and we had about I think 21% of power left, and when we went down, we had
Hmm.
23% of
Okay.
power. So that's really, really nice to see, to have
True.
more power. Of course, when you climbed up, you use this.
Yeah, of
That's
course you use this.
completely clear, but it's something completely different, like for ICE cars, and that's
True.
also one point you have always to take into consideration when calculating how much power you spend or how the range will be, that
Correct.
especially in the mountains, it will go a little bit up and down. Now the algorithms are so cool that if you provide them with the goal of your journey, then they
Hmm.
will already calculate how much you're going up and down the mountains and how this will show in your statistics there.
Okay. Okay. And so, do you prep before that? So, let's say if you are going on a mountain, like, do you have some sort of preparation with your battery? Do you like charge in a certain way? Or, just like another business day, you take it and
Yeah,
leave.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No,
It's
normally yes.
interesting.
So especially when we go with the family to Italy during the summer vacation, it's always that we have to drive via the famous Brenner. That's the highway that goes up the mountains and then down to Italy. And especially when we drive from here, from Munich to the highest point.
Mhm.
This is only the normal charge with 80% that I have within the car, and then on the top, I don't want to, or I'm not able to fill the car completely, because then this regen kicks in and it will be
Right.
not able to store get all of the power into the battery. So
Right.
it's completely that's not an issue with EV cars.
So regarding the overall ownership, right? Of course, we know there are so many features that NIO cars or any other Chinese car will provide, and the community events. And you are an enthusiast, but someone who is not an enthusiast, right? And let's say he is using an EV. Which of this features like Neo House or community events or the app or the AI assistant, all those, if we go through that, like which are genuinely useful for a normal day-to-day driver?
I think the battery swap is it's the most important one, because it's so easy. And your if there is the battery swap system, and it don't have to be that one from NIO. I think CATL is putting out or building up a huge network in China, at least right now. But this is so convenient to have these batteries switched within 2 or 3 minutes right now. It's speeding
Right.
up with every generation that comes out, and then can have a go. And I think especially for all the ride-hailing services, I think you also have Uber and such
True.
services
Yeah. Yeah.
with other names
Yes.
in India. I think especially for those drivers that can't wait maybe an hour to
Correct.
get, or
Charge.
half an hour to charge, that's so convenient. I think this is really the biggest pro
Mm-hmm.
within the NIO universe, the battery
Yeah,
swapping.
anyways. And so good that you mentioned taxis. So, in India, people are skeptic about EV cars per se. But because, since I think at least till this generation, since many generations, car is still a symbol of luxury in India. Although now we have, so many cars being really sold, and then also EV adoption is higher. But still, like, when someone is buying a car, it is still something with people associate their emotions with, and still they have a status link to that particular car. But for the EV adoption in India, there is you can say a swarm of things coming up in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. Actually, two-wheelers are doing very good innovation in electric vehicles. And so since you mentioned a taxi service, we had a competitor locally developed that Ola cabs grew very fast, and then they actually pivoted into developing EV scooters. So till I think last year, and after that they had some service issues, etc. But Ola two wheelers were the front runners in this race, and then they had highest sales, and they have also developed their own cells, etc. Actually, having their own cell factory, and they're one of the biggest factories of two wheelers in Southeast Asia and stuff. So they are doing very well, and perhaps the EV revolution, I think, will come from two wheelers and perhaps three wheelers also, because we have three wheelers sitting there as well. Let's
Yep.
see how that goes.
But that's the same like in China. So that's whole of the world is always talking about the cars. But if you see the scooters there, and I think there was some legislation that said, okay, all of the ICE scooters are abolished because of air pollution. And then this is they have, I think it's maybe double, four or sixfold the numbers of cars that are electric trikes or two-wheelers in China. And I think this will be the same development in India, I would assume.
Yes, true. Because it's anyway day-to-day driver. So and I was amazed to know was that when like I live outside of Pune, and just if you like cross my area, it's almost the villages, it's almost the countrysides. So here we have a concept of, let's say, people delivering fresh milk directly from the dairy. So there are no their
Okay.
own small pockets of dairies. They milk the animals, let's say, in the morning, and that fresh milk is really delivered to your doorstep. And what I saw was that that person is actually bringing an electric vehicle. So I was amazed, because then they have a requirement of carrying the load of those milk cans, as well as they require longer ranges, because they are going to really deliver that. But yeah, they are using it successfully. So I was amazed to see that. Anyway, so how many times do you really get software updates, and like, are you really good with them? Because I'll tell you why I asked this question. Because let's say we have these JSW collaborative EVs from China, right? We have this cloud model, if you know, from MG. It's called Windsor in India, and there is a couple of more where you have the updates directly coming in, streaming in from internet, and they look like they are Chinese, and they have their own typical color schemes, and their own. Sometimes even the fonts change through Chinese. So, do you face such glitches, or software updates are always better?
So first one, so it's really a hot topic here in Germany, because the
Okay.
German manufacturers are not really good at software updates over the air. So
Okay.
there was some big issues with the ID.3 from Volkswagen that was
Uh-huh.
promised to get this feature, and it was postponed and postponed again, and so on. That's one of these running gags here, telling that Germany can't build software, and now they have to rely on help from the Chinese people and development departments. But besides this, so especially for NIO, they started really good,
Mhm.
but they also had some downturns in the updates that we got. You have to distinguish between firmware updates and software updates. So software updates for the
Mhm.
single apps, they are still delivered. But as NIO is not so commercially successful in Europe like they planned to be, they reduced the developing stuff on that one. And so we're getting once a year an
Mhm.
update, but we're not getting the latest technology from China, which is a big topic in the community and discussions going on in the community. Why they
Mhm.
get the better software, especially for the autonomous driving in the NIO cars, also on the same platform like the European cars in China, already got a new world model software,
Mhm.
which is improving the ADAS of the car many times, but we won't see this, unfortunately, in Europe within the near future, we've been told.
Right.
But there are some smaller updates, and that's also fine. But yeah, it's always when you look into the neighbor's garden and see the apples there, you want to get this one, of course.
Absolutely. And since you mentioned ADAS, right? So, in Neo, like, and since you have driven Tesla as well, do you feel the ADAS of Tesla is better, or Chinese are doing better at ADAS features?
To be honest, I have not driven the latest one. So we had a program here that you can join Tesla test drives, and I still
Mhm.
got a Tesla. So I got
Okay.
two Neos, a Tesla, and a
Okay.
small electric van. So
Oh,
for
okay.
electric cars. And so I was not able to test this. All of my friends that tested it, they were quite impressed on
Mhm.
that one. But I have to say I hope to be able to test this within the following weeks. So
There is a ceiling to what now ICE vehicles can do in terms of upgrades, or in terms of cool new features, and yeah, they are business as usual. We can add, let's say, two more screens, and we can basically do something. Where in EV we have scope of, let's say, this solid state batteries, or having, let's say, more energy per unit of battery physical length, right? All that is still there. Recycling is also one big aspect, right? With this and with big aspirational market like India, right? So with this, and specifically, Neo, which is, you can say, at the pinnacle of EV invention for now. How do you see them arriving in India in such ceiling?
that's a good one and a difficult one. To be honest, I'm not aware of any plans that NIO will head to India, but maybe There are plans, so I can't tell. What you said, I think it's completely right. NIO itself, it's a premium brand. There are two sub brands. The first one is the Onvo. The Onvo is a much cheaper and it's a family orientated. So in Chinese, it's called Li Dao, or the international brand is Onvo. It's for En Voyage, and this is really family oriented. They have the L60, that's kind of a Model Y. I think this will fit quite well into the Indian society because you can put a lot of people in and do also long driving, especially also the L90, that's a 6-seater or a 7-seater, but cheaper one. So it's not the completely premium one. And there is a small, and I don't know if there's a market for that. There's also the Firefly brand, and they have this really A-class or B-class hatchback, sporty. It's like driving a go-kart car. It's really, really fun to drive this.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah, maybe this is something for the Indian market. But to be honest, I'm not really familiar with the Indian market, and I had to do some research to see if this will fit on it. So it will be fun to drive, and I hope that NIO is getting there. But I don't know about it.
So yeah, I'll give you some context. So basically in here, right now the situation is that, and I think that's pretty much everywhere around the world, word SUV is, really something that attracts people. And, everyone is after them. Really, I think if you just go 10 years back, the situation was that most of the market was dominated by, smaller sedans. I think the government in 2000s, they brought a rule that if a car is shorter than 4 meters, the tax on that will be very less. So we had that compact sedan rule, sub 4 meter rule, which basically generated a lot of market for compact sedans. And Maruti Suzuki, which is again right now also the highest seller of cars in India, developed vehicles around it. We had Ford developing vehicles around it. We have Volkswagen. We had Hyundai developing vehicles around that. So that was the boom in thousands and early 2010s. And then I think you have Renault Duster, right? Which was a model. I think it is relaunched in Europe and it is relaunched in India as well. That created a revolution where within that sub 4 meter or a little more than 4 meter range, people started getting this sumo SUVs. So I think after that, the wave has been that every brand is selling SUVs in every segment. Like, whatever we had as a hatchback is beefed up and produced as an SUV. So all that I think in mind, I think the important factor would be cost. Also be, the car should look like an SUV, even though sedan performs better in every aspect. But of course, it has to look like an SUV if it needs to succeed in India. And yeah, we love features. So of course, whatever electronic features that China offers, of course, everyone would like to use that. And yeah, of course, this battery as a service, if that is extended with this battery swap, that would be a revolution. Because, for example, I have relatives who like performance cars, which are as well as electric. They don't mind if it is electric and if it is performing better. But, let's say, one person has a job where he has to travel, and traveling constantly would be difficult with an electric vehicle right now in India. So battery swap would be a very happy addition to, the Indian market. So of course, that's what my feeling is. Coming to, near end of our session. So what is the challenge, or what are things that frustrate you in the electric vehicle ownership, which are not making it to the marketing material?
Yeah, I think it's on the one hand, as a new customer, it's the update policy with the NIO that we don't get the newest updates, software updates right now, and that NIO decided first to be financial stable. So it's completely understandable in China before they bring new models also to Europe and to other countries. So that's a little bit disappointing, but that's really a special thing within NIO European user group. Especially from EV in general is really the winter performance. But to be honest, I'm driving a car that's now 4 years old. when it
Mhm.
was developed. I think it's about 7 years old or something like this.
Uh-huh.
And so the winter performance, so you're getting accustomed to that, and I'm not driving that much within winter times. But
Mhm.
when it's getting here November or so, I can still see within the next week there will be a lot of comments for first
Mhm.
time the EV users when they go drive their car home, especially over
Right.
the Christmas holiday, and they will complain, "Oh, I
The
would have
range is very less.
with the should have stayed with the ICE cars because
Right.
I had to charge one more time or something like this, and they're complaining about this one." So
Yeah.
I think with getting better chemistries, LFP chemistries, and then sodium or natrium
Mhm.
based batteries, this will solve the problems, but that's still a little bit annoying. I think
Right.
you can plan with it, and you're getting,
Yeah.
if you know this before, then everything is fine, but that's still an open point.
So I think at the closure, let's have a fast rapid fire. What is the one word that comes into mind when you think about a neo ownership experience?
It's a lifestyle.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, one thing that the EV buyers in India would take for granted that neo owners don't have, like something that you see that they don't have right now.
Maybe the big chance to have so much sun and wind power to install a lot of own infrastructure. So that's not possible in
True.
China. It's
Yeah.
impressive what they build on as infrastructure, but you can build it really on your own. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big pros you have.
So based on your research that you have done in let's say past 1 or 2 days, do you have in mind any Indian electric vehicle which you would like to swap for some days and test it?
To be honest, I want to go, of course, first one for the you were already calling it out, the MG Windsor or something
Uh-huh.
like this. It's one of the
Yeah.
most popular. I just want to drive because it's one of the most popular, and I want to
True.
compare it with the other Chinese brands.
So
On the other
uh-huh.
side, I told you I have these it's street scooter that was some strange brand from DHL.
Huh?
They built their own, like the Rivian cars from Amazon. They did it 10 years before here in Germany. And this is a really basic car. And I
Okay.
I also like to drive a really basic EV car from India. And I forgot the name. It was from Tata, and it was a
Yeah,
really, really
it's
cheap
Tiago.
one. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
the Tiago.
Tiago. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be nice to change
Interesting. Okay.
this for too.
Okay. And what's your final message for an Indian buyer who is still sitting on the fence to switch?
Yeah, go. So it will be the future. It will be cheaper than gas. It's better for the environment. It's better for the society, for the children. Maybe there will be some downside that you have to wait a little bit longer to charge the car or something like this. But to be honest, that's that's worth it. And I think this will go away within the next 2 or 3 years. And yeah, but there's no reason. Go, go, go.
All right. Thanks, Andreas, for your time. I think we had very fun, interesting, and intriguing conversation. This is what it looks like when you have infrastructure catching up with the demand. And thanks for your time, Andreas. Yeah,
Thank you
and
for
have a
having
good
us.
day.
Thank you for having me. Mohit, just one last sentence. So I'm
Sure.
always promoting the EV stuff. So if you have any listeners from Germany, within Germany, that want to have a test ride on a NIO car or
Sure.
on a Tesla car and one of my cars, just give me a hint or give me a message, and then we will try to organize this.
Absolutely. Thanks.